All right, welcome to another Thursday evening Tree Scout members call. This evening, we are featuring Mr. Trad Cotter. He's going to be talking about medicinal mushrooms. But before we do that, I'd like to invite our members to come forth with any questions or requests for classes. If you have anything you'd like to talk about, you can raise your hand or shoot it in the comments. And that is anything, any projects you're working on you need help with, any requests for classes, or anything else you just like to share as a general item of interest. So we'll start with that. Does anybody have anything? Going once, going twice. All right, moving on. So this is a Tree Scout members call. We open a lot of these to the public, especially at the beginning as we're trying to build our memberships. We've been working on our health and wellness curriculum recently. So this is a curriculum that is the taproot of the most important part of the curriculum, which is your wellness, your health, and whatever you need in order to be able to learn the other skills that we are bringing to Treehouse Trade School. Now we are creating online training and we do in-person training. The online courses are prerequisites for coming to work with us in person. So if you want to learn construction, for instance, you can go on and learn our construction curriculum. That way, when you show up, you'll be ready and you'll be prepared and you'll have a general idea of what's going on. This makes it more efficient for us as teachers, and it makes it more efficient for you as a student. So you actually pay a fraction of the cost that it would take to do in-person training. So we know that a lot of the trades require hands-on learning, but those online courses are like a prerequisite. So if you're not a member, we'd like to invite you to go to treehousetradeschool.com and sign up for a membership. And if you are a member, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting Treehouse Trade School. And all proceeds are helping us develop the curriculum, eventually building a brick and mortar location and doing community service and education projects. So thank you for being a part of this. And now I'd like to go introduce Mr. Trad Cotter, one of my favorite people in the world here with us. I've known Trad for about 15 years or so. We became friends when the Seneca Treehouse very first started. And Trad has been a major inspiration for all kinds of stuff, especially mushrooms, but he's also one heck of a funny guy. And we have the pleasure of working with him most days. So it really brings a lot of joy to the work environment. So Trad, thank you so much for being here. Everyone give him some snaps or something like that if you want to. And you can take it away with medicinal mushroom presentation. Thank you, Trad.
Awesome, man. Scott, love you guys. Love working with you too. It's so much fun. Yeah, the conversations are interesting at work. You know, it keeps it really it keeps it good. Yeah, it keeps it good. Yeah, I love it. So yeah, I'm a mycologist and microbiologist, and I study fungi, and I also did landscape design for years. And I brought this back skill to Treehouse Trade School. You know, so my knowledge, bringing it in now, sharing with everyone, is I think important for immune health. And medicinal mushrooms are one of my favorite topics. And so we're going to talk about how mushrooms make medicine first, and then we're going to talk about the individual mushrooms and what they do. You know, so let's go ahead. Well, first of all, mushrooms have been used medicinally for millennia, for thousands of years, but no one really knew why. And then in the early 1920s, Alexander Fleming accidentally had this fungus show up on a plate, and then all of a sudden it started to inhibit bacteria, started to kill it. So that what you see there is a halo. Let me see if I got that. Yep, that little halo right there. That is the inhibition zone. So this fungus creates a little inhibition zone, and this happens in nature. So keep that in mind, that there's molecules being diffused through this gel far away from the fungus, which is really awesome, right? That it can send molecules further than its tissue and destroy bacteria. And that's what they do in nature. So early 1920s, yeah, we discovered that, fungus were antibiotic, and then I started to mess around with fungi in class. Well, I had Mushroom Mountain, started in 1996, went back to school to Clemson at 38 years old, and then I started to play around with different galleries, and I noticed that the fungus was symmetrical in pure culture, but when it got contaminated, it surged over the competitor. So this was a Aspergillus mold, and I noticed that like it kept the perfect contour of the competitor, what was on the plate. So it stopped progressive growth, and it surged over the top. And I took these photos, and I'm like, this was an old camera. This is not iPhones. They weren't out yet. So this is 2012, I think. And then I started to zoom in and notice, like, oh my God, they're like creating a lot of metabolites. So mushrooms create heat, carbon dioxide, and water or sweat. And so this sweat contains the enzymes, which are like chemical keys, which break down what they eat. So it's like an animal turned inside out. They're basically dissolving the wood. Whenever you see a mushroom growing on a log, those enzymes are being sweated out, and they are dissolving it, and then they're pulling in their nutrition. What's also in that metabolite is antibiotics, antimicrobials, antivirals, all these things. So as a mushroom is interacting with their environment, they are actively and dynamically programming the mycelium to produce something unique, something novel, which is so cool, like on demand. So then I started to purposefully like plate mushrooms against each other, and this is what I would do on a Friday night, right? So this is why I probably am single, right? Right, Scott? This is probably why. Um,
One of the reasons.
all right, never mind. So this one up here is a shiitake fungus, and the one down here is an elm oyster, and I paired them against each other. And so I made little gladiator matches, and then along this line where they collided, this elm oyster just started to sweat out these beautiful molecules. And what's in those molecules is unknown. And the only way to really know what's in these molecules is to like do mass spec, or you could do LPC, you could do liquid chromatography, but mass spec would be needed to know what these molecules are. But you don't need a mass spec to make medicine. All right. So I knew that shiitake fungus was really weak and the elm oyster was really strong. So I started to like pair these things up. And when we start looking at the mechanisms for this, and these are mechanisms, medicinal mushrooms, most of the time, do not act directly on the condition. In other words, like cancer or inflammation or something like that, especially cancers. But they do act directly on fungi and bacteria and other nerve degenerations and stuff like that. So we're going to look at immune modulation, anti-inflammatory response, and inflammation is the bottom of the scaffold. If you picture disease as a pyramid, and everything has to sit on the base of that pyramid, if you can knock out inflammation, then everything else on top cannot stand, right? They cannot support each other. So anti-inflammatories are very important. So I'm going to point out those species tonight. Nerve degeneration and disorders, we'll talk about that. Antifungal, bacterial, cancer, and virus. So we're going to go through the species in a minute. But I also want to tell you that if they don't act directly on the condition, we are 1,000 times over not our human cells. So, what's going on? So these fungi, when you ingest them, when you eat a shiitake mushroom or have soup or take cordyceps supplements, those molecules are flowing through your lymph system, through your blood system, and they are flagging like turkey tail does. You have non-self cells that are not you, or they could be a cancer cell that has mutated and become immortal. And so those molecules could stick to receptor sites on cells like cancer cells, and they could warn our T cells that, hey, this one does not belong. This is something masquerading as a trad cell. And so it would attack it. It would cause your immune system to attack that cell, which is really cool. So they flag or highlight non-self cells. That's called a cascade effect. Beta-glucans, I'm not going to get into that a lot, but a lot of mushrooms contain beta-glucans, and they are the cell walls of mushrooms are made of chitin. That's CHITIN. And that is a mineralized sugar, which is very hard to digest. And so that is why you have to, if you are taking some medicinal mushrooms like turkey tail, maitake, and others, that you would have to not only cook those, but you might have to do an alcohol extraction or something to bust up that molecular structure of chitin so the beta-glucans can be released. Otherwise, they're what's called, they're not biologically available at all. So bioavailability is a word. All right, so these are hiding in the cell walls. Now, I'll also tell you that mushrooms are not photosynthetic, right? They don't create their own food from the sun, but they are radiotropic. And they're also very sensitive to light. And if they don't have light, they cannot make the biochemicals that they need. And here's a pink oyster in the upper left, blue oyster upper right, golden oyster in the bottom. If you grew those in the dark, they would be albinos. So they also contain melanin-like compounds that, in the presence of light, that tiny little skin that's on top of a mushroom is just like human skin. So mushrooms are like solar panels, and they take in light. That light, those photons hit a sequence, they bounce off, and then all of a sudden those chemicals are released or they're manufactured. And the most prominent ones are vitamin D. So if you grow a mushroom in the dark, these are clones, by the way. The one on the left, golden oyster, total albino, no vitamin D whatsoever. The one on the right, blue spectrum LEDs. That's the nanometers, like 420 to 550. That range is perfect, right? So look at the difference in the two. The one on the left is long, it's stretched, it's looking for light, it's like wanting light, so it stretches, it's looking for light. And the one on the right is very short, it's happy. So I can tell the happiness of a medicinal mushroom based on the color and the length of the stem. So that's what you want. You want that kind of color in a medicinal mushroom. Also, the temperature, if you lower the temperature while a mushroom is growing, it can receive more light, right? That's true. It's slower growing. It gets more light. And so then the mushroom, the mycelium, is compounding the medicinal compounds. If it grows really fast, the cap color will be weak. It'll be very dilute, and it will not have as much vitamin D. It will not have as much medicinal properties. And so, as I transition from a gilled mushroom to a polypore, which is a mushroom with pores, not gills, polypores are long lived, and they are out there for months, sometimes years, and they're constantly receiving light. They're constantly being bathed and programming their mycelium and the fruiting structure to manufacture medicinal compounds in their fruiting body. So that's why reishi is one of the most important medicinal mushrooms, right? Turkey tails last for months. All right, so this is a king oyster, antibiotic, malt extract agar. That's what that means, ABMA. And look how symmetrical it is. So this one is, it's a good edible mushroom, but in the lab, it's like a zoo animal. So it's not hitting any competitors. This is not what happens in nature. Everyone knows that. Like if this mushroom was growing in the ground or on a log, it would be bumping into like millions, if not billions of microbes and just sweating and secreting. And then we see all these lines in the wood that we mill, and we see spalting, and they're fighting and battling and doing things like that. So this is like a zoo animal. This is not a great way to take a medicinal mushroom. So when you're buying or purchasing medicinal mushrooms, look at the label. And more importantly, just go out and harvest wild mushrooms that have experienced that kind of challenge from their environment. They have bacteria, fungi, viruses, everything trying to kill them. So what they do is they try to sweat out and protect themselves. And they put all that goodness into the fruiting body. So that's why I'm a big proponent of cultivating your own mushrooms. We do this at Treehouse. And you just, fresh cut logs after a storm, get some mushroom spawn. You put it in the logs, fresh cut. They have to be fresh cut within, I would say, sweet gum, softer hardwoods within a month. Something like an oak could be, it could be 3 to 6 months is pretty good. This is a chainsaw cuts. If you have a tree down that just falls down, you can just nick it with a chainsaw and pack some spawn in there. My book has a lot of tricks in it. How you can take some spawn and make cardboard spawn, and then put these little pieces of cardboard in and just perpetuate the fungus. And then you have your own little medicinal mushroom patch, which is like food security too. Mushrooms are outside the medicinal range. You're talking about nutritional. Shiitake have as much protein, calorie for calorie, dry weight as eggs and chicken. Oyster mushrooms, which are really easy to grow and they grow really fast, have twice the amount of protein than a shiitake. So I think oyster mushrooms are like the superfood. Shiitake are really good. They're really tasty. They're really meaty. But oyster mushrooms are like the superfood. You can also bury the logs. Here it is. You can make a little raft in the woods. You can cover it with mulch. You can cover it with straw. You can grow Nameko. You can cover reishi mushrooms. Some mushrooms like to grow from buried wood. All right. So you have to know like the habitat of the fungus. And that's why I like growing my mushrooms outdoors, is because they interact with the environment. They interact with the microbial ecology. And they also receive the sunlight. Right? The natural sunlight that programs the mycelium. This is an odd one. So we'll start here. This is Nameko, Pholiota Nameko. Let's spell PH, Pholiota, PHOLOLOIOTA, Nameko, NAMEKO. This is the traditional mushroom of miso soup. And I was shocked to see this, but this is the number one produced and consumed mushroom in Japan. I thought it was going to be shiitakes or something else. But Foliota Nameko is the number one produced mushroom in Japan, and they have a very, very low risk of cancer or cancer cases there. High fish diet and high consumption of mushrooms. This one's growing on a little buried raft. This one was fruiting in like November. It's a fall fruiter. But look at that. If you have a little raft like this, or a raft or two, and you cut all these and you store them, you can have enough medicine or medicinal mushrooms for a whole year, maybe 2 years. Yeah, so that one's mostly cancer fighting compounds, oyster mushrooms. Very interesting group. So oyster mushrooms may seem very common to people, but recent research has suggested that these mushrooms are very highly active with antiviral compounds, which after COVID, and these are compounds that combat retroviruses, which is that's what a coronavirus is. That's what HIV is, and so they are doing studies now in California and South Africa on Pleurotus that these mushrooms actually inhibit the cancer from growing. So they will reduce tumor size, they will interact with your immune system, and they will also combat tuberculosis, which is like a co-infection with HIV. So this is oyster mushrooms are easy to grow, really easy to grow. Like you can plant those on straw and have those fruiting in a couple of weeks and perpetuate that fungus in your house. So I highly encourage everybody here, anybody listening, to grow oyster mushrooms at home, not just for protein, because remember, Pleurotus have twice the amount of protein that a shiitake does. You know, shiitakes take months to grow, and an oyster mushroom only takes a couple weeks. So they're really good, like manufacturers. Shiitake mushrooms have are very high in antivirals too. So if you were to, let's say, create or look at, the trending of viral activity online and say, okay, this is gonna be a nasty flu season, I would start to make shiitake and oyster mushroom soup and drink that broth. Eat those fruiting bodies like 2 to 3 times a week. Make tea. You can take a shiitake mushroom. The stems are really fibrous. You can dry these mushrooms. You can powder them. You can steep them. You can make tea, and you can get those antivirals out of the tea. You don't have to do a alcohol extraction for this. So at least do that. Right? Wood ear. I don't know. Has anybody ever had any wood ears? Anyone?
Oh yeah, buddy.
I've seen them a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know Scott's got that tree or whatever down near the figs and the blueberries is loaded. Yeah, but it's so interesting. Like when I was 20, I was only interested in a couple mushrooms for edibility or value. Now every fungus has a gift, and wood ears, they don't taste like anything. They just taste like this little rubbery, kind of crunchy, seaweedy little thing. And you might think, oh, that's kind of weird. That's kind of gross. It's slimy. But when you cut it and you put it in a soup, it's the best blood thinner on the planet. So it's a good maintenance mushroom to eat. If you have a soup or a seaweed salad, you could slice these. You do not have to cook those. They have a very low chitin content. And so you slice these, put them in the soup or salad, and just eat them. You can eat them raw, and you will get the medicinal compounds. So it's an anticoagulant. It is a blood thinner. So eat them very sparingly. So you don't want to eat like a whole pound of wood ears and go like plain wood in the treehouse trade school and cut yourself, or at the sawmill, and then it will not stop bleeding. That's what it does. It limits the blood clotting, the platelets from coagulating at your cut site, right? So wood ears are awesome. Love wood ears. There it is, kind of flat. Cordyceps, one of my favorite groups. Favorite groups. These are mycoparasites. So they parasitize bugs and other fungi, other truffles. So what you see here is Cordyceps, Elaphiocordyceps capitata. This is Ophioglossoides, and this one on the right is militaris. The one I'm going to focus mostly on is militaris because this is the one of medical significance, right? These other two are pretty cool. I might touch on that. But interestingly enough, like when they first started to figure out like how to do human organ transplants, the organs would be rejected. Genetically they would be rejected. So they found a fungus, cyclosporin, that produced cyclosporin. It was actually from a cordyceps, but it was in a different phase of the cordyceps life cycle. And this would turn off your immune system temporarily. So they would put you in a, the hospital, tent, oxygen, everything. They would give you cyclosporin. They would give you the organ transplant, and then your organ would fuse, and then they would take you off of this, and then, build your immune system back up. So that fungus turns your immune system off. So now we're going to talk about the mushrooms, the same fungus, weirdly enough, that turns your immune system on, like hyper aware. So there are cordyceps in our area. I'm not sure where everyone's from. I mean, we're in South Carolina. The cordyceps are everywhere. And what happens is these fungi exist in a mold state first. And then when a host comes along, then it transitions. It sticks to the host. The spores recognize the host. They drill a hole through their armor. And there's like cuticle recognition, and then it mummifies the host. It steers them around like a remote control, which is really cool. It could put them up in a tree, in a log, and then it kills the ant. Let's say this is an ant, and then the mushroom pops out the back of its brain, right? Which was the picture on the early slide, Scott. So Cordyceps militaris is a medicinally very potent mushroom. It contains cordycepin, and it dilates the alveoli in your lungs, so it increases oxygen flow. And it also is called the Viagra of the Himalayas because of that. So it's a very male tonic in that respect. So I don't know. I'll let y'all put two and two together. Cordyceps militaris, also cordycepin, is also shown to interrupt a viral life cycle in 4 or 5 different places on the cycle. So a virus is not alive, it's just a mechanism. And so it attaches to your cells. It has to dock, it has to recognize, it has to dock, it has to inject its RNA or DNA inside your cell. Then it has to adapt to your DNA. Then it has to bond with your DNA, and then it has to go out of your cell wall, and then it has to explode or burst or bud out. There's a lot going on with the virus, but cordyceps somehow can interrupt that replication cycle in 4 or 5 different places. So that's much different than a pharmaceutical drug can do. So pharmaceutical drugs are like, they're like golden BBs. They're going to go after one mechanism. They're like one molecule. When you're taking medicinal mushrooms, you're taking a broad spectrum of molecules, a lot of different things all at once. And cordyceps are very safe. I was taking these at high elevation in Colorado. It was really good to have oxygen up there, and so cordyceps. So that would be antiviral, oxygen, and also for post workout, right? And so if you're working out a lot, especially after work, you guys, we work a lot. My muscles are tight right now. I mean, my back muscles are tight. We're lifting stuff today. That was a workout. And so I should take cordyceps tonight, right? That's what they look like in the wild. You will not find that many in the wild in the Appalachians, so you can buy this stuff now online. Just make sure you're buying Cordyceps militaris, and a lot of growers are growing it, so you can find that. You can find tinctures. Just make sure if you're buying tinctures, make sure it's whole fruiting body extracts. That's all. Not mycelium. Not mycelium. And so, yeah, this is so cool. Like militaris is like when you find them, they're attached to bugs, like this little chrysalid of a moth or something like that. That's just so much fun to find these. Cordyceps ophioglossoides or Elaphcordyceps. Now, these are attached to truffles. So these are host jumpers. They for millions of years they've jumped from cicadas to truffles, back and forth to cicadas to truffles. That is so weird. Why is that? Right? That is insane. Like, why would a fungus jump exclusively from a cicada to a truffle back to a cicada? They've done this over and over. This one has a nerve growth factor, which reverses the effect of Alzheimer's. So this is a nerve tonic, and nerve growth factor is something that is it's not new to science, and they stimulate the reproduction of adult brain stem cells, which is amazing. And Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and my mom passed away from ALS. And I was trying really hard to like convince her, like, hey, this is maybe, we should take something like this, something with nerve growth factor, But my mom was like, she was old school, she was listening to the doctors, and they just kept giving her more and more drugs. That's it, like a Band-Aid. So this one was a great discovery, nerve growth factor, but it was very difficult to find, impossible to cultivate because a truffle is mycorrhizal. It grows on trees. So you'd have to have a tree, a fungus, and then another fungus growing on that one. I mean, it was almost impossible to ramp up, to ramp that up. So they found out that lion's mane or pom-pom has the same type of compounds. It grows really fast. It's really good to eat. It's easy to cultivate, which is important. So if you cannot find lion's mane, buy it. Find a local buyer, a local grower. Buy a pound a week, and cook that up. It's water soluble, mostly water soluble, so you do not have to do like a intense medicinal alcohol extraction, all that stuff. You would just slice this up, or I actually like pulling it apart because the teeth pull apart really nice into little strips, and it tastes like crab meat or lobster. If you cook it in oil and butter and a little salt, it tastes really, really good. So this one is one of my favorites, lion's mane. I know some on the call have found them, but just know that has really intense nerve growth factors in those mushrooms. Maitake. Oh my God. How many of you ever found a maitake? Anyone? No one. All right.
I've found my Taki before, but I think I only found it once. And a couple times I found it, I thought it was actually the black staining polypore. I got it confused.
Right. Yeah. So there is a lookalike for this one. Black staining polypore. Maitake generally fruits in the fall in the southeast, and then it starts moving. Well, it'll start fruiting up in Pennsylvania and New York earlier because it's cooler there first, and then it starts to move south. So when you start to when you start to look at social media and start to see people finding maitake fruiting in Pennsylvania, and then Virginia, and then North Carolina, get ready, because then the timing is probably coming. This is the first maitake I ever found. I think I was 21 years old, and it was like Halloween day, and I was broke. I was between jobs, and I found this mushroom, and I sold it to that chef on the right, Five Diamond Chef in Somerville, South Carolina, for $200. That one mushroom, $200. And as I was walking out of the woods, I just glanced back and I saw another one fruiting on the tree. So I sold one, kept one, and it was absolutely amazing. So this mushroom, the one you're looking at, it's a little old. So the tips, those little fronds, can be trimmed off and eaten, but the entire interior is really dense. But you can slice that, you can make it into chips, or you can slice it, dry it, dehydrate, and powder it and make an amazing tea or powder. You can take the powder and you can take fish or vegetables if you're a vegetarian, and you can take that and powder. Let's say this chef powdered grouper in like shiitake powder and just seared it in oil and made a crust and then baked it. Oh my God, it was really good. Oh shit. So don't waste any part of the mushroom. Like if it's very fibrous, dry it. It's still mycelium, it's still medicinal, and you can dry that, powder it, and still use it. So don't throw that away. Oh my God. Shit. Sorry, delete that. Breast cancer, right? Breast cancer is an epidemic. These are immortalized cancer cells in the breast. So one of the best things you can take, especially for women listening, is turkey tail. And that has PSK. It is a beta glucan. That is from turkey tails. And Scott, that's why I saved a lot of the turkey tails out of that wood pile and put them in the shade, is because soon we should probably harvest those. And then after we harvest those turkey tail, we can dehydrate those, powder them up. It's going to make like a fiber. It's really weird looking. And then do an extraction. And that's going to have to take a alcohol hot water bath to get the beta glucans out, right? But a turkey tail, this common little bracket that we pass by like every day in the woods, it's all over the place. This is the #1 cancer fighting, therapy in Japan. And there's little to no side effects. There's nothing. And if you're listening and watching to, I don't watch TV anymore, but I used to. But on TV, all those drug commercials, like at this time of night, they were like back to back, and they're all Band-Aid. They're all like cholesterol, diabetes, sexual libido stuff, everything. But there's no really cures there. It's like a pill a day, manufacturing, capitalism. That's it. But turkey tails, those commercials were like, oh my God, you may have heart pain, you may have diarrhea, you may have blood. It's like they just go on all the reactions that you might have from that drug. but the only reaction that they found from a turkey tail is like a slight yellowing of the nails that goes away. I mean, anybody can handle that. So turkey tails should be on your list. So cancer fighting compounds, very, very important. And I've got turkey tail extract in my kitchen, and I'm taking them to my dad tomorrow. Right, Scotty? So, almond portobello. This is a very interesting mushroom. It's too late to plant this or spawn this year. This is a relative of the portobello and the white button mushroom, but it's more tropical, and it bruises bright yellow. It's got some amazing compounds in it. This is the most medicinal, cancer-fighting guild mushroom so far that they've researched. So I have some Agaricus blazei here, and I'm going to be working with it this weekend. It tastes very sweet, almost like cherries and almonds. It likes to grow on manure. So if you grow this in like a pile of manure and straw and put this in a little corner or a tray, you can grow this mushroom very easily. It takes about 60 days to mature. So if you are preparing your compost, if you prepare a compost, by the way, especially out of manure, there's a lot of ammonia. So if you can smell the ammonia, then don't spawn it, because that'll kill the mycelium. So part per million is like, ammonia is 2 or 4, something like that, percent. If you cannot detect or smell ammonia, then you can make a little almond portobello patch, right? And some of these get really large, like 6 inches, 10 inches big, and you can eat them. But I find that they're really sweet, and you can slice and cook these, and they're so sweet. If you cook them, then you can almost put them on ice cream. They're like that sweet. Beautiful mushroom. Yeah, they love to colonize compost, which also makes them very high in antimicrobials, because they're combating, they're weaving their way through compost. You know, if bacteria and coliforms are in manure, they plow their way through that. And just understand that if you think like a mushroom, like I do, the mycelium is plowing through nasty stuff like sewage, and it's sweating out and it's killing everything. So it's programming its mycelium to create these novel compounds. And then when a fruiting body occurs, like the almond portobello, when that fruiting body occurs, it's going to concentrate all those amazing medicinal compounds into the fruiting body. All right. So it's a process. Enoki or velvet foot. This is enoki mushroom. They sell enoki mushrooms in the store. They're like long and stringy. They look like little noodles, like vacuum packed. Not the same. They're white. They're albino. Why? Because they grow them in the dark. Right? They grow them in the dark. They grow them under high carbon dioxide. That's why they're so long. So they stretch. The reason they do that is because that mushroom is very chewy. It's very rubbery. What you're looking at is very hard to chew, right? I love this collection. I collected this mushroom that you're seeing at Saluda, North Carolina, at a cabin. It was frozen solid, and I think it was January or February. I mean, that's ice melting on the left, and it's definitely a winter mushroom. They call it velvet foot, and you have to be very careful with ID with this one. So this is not a beginner mushroom. So it fades from white to kind of this dark velvety base. There's also another mushroom called a deadly gallerina that has the same kind of color, but it does not have this white gills or anything like that. All right. So if any of you want to learn mushroom ID, I'm going to post some mushroom ID classes soon on my website. But this mushroom, cancer fighting, cancer support, I should say. Really good for cancer support. So whenever I'm talking about these, a lot of them are aligning, right, for cancer support. So if someone was to call me or a family member is going through something, I would say, okay, well, let me maybe formulate a combination of these 2, 3, or 4, like turkey tail, maitake, almond portobello, enoki, and I would put all those 4 or 5 together and administer that to that person because our immune systems are all different. But as long as those molecules are there, then your body knows what to do with it, right? Oh, let's see. Agaricon is not on the East Coast. That's a West Coast mushroom. That is a polypore. No gills, just these pores. Look, that's the only living part of that mushroom right there, that little tiny thing. And every year, these mushrooms add a layer. This is called a beehive. So if you were to go up here and count the layers, almost like a tree ring, it started up here. This mushroom right here is almost 30 years old. 30 years old. So this mushroom is very rare, and nobody should be popping these off the trees. I know Paul Stamets. I was hanging out with him last a week or two ago. They only take a tiny little piece of the mycelium right here, and they clone it, and they grow the mycelium. Now, I told you, like, well, what about the fruiting body versus mycelium? Well, there's the trade-off, is that these mushrooms are rare. They should not be picked. They can be over-harvested. They can be endangered. So really, all we can do is grow them in the lab, harvest the mycelium, and just deal with that. Right? So there's nothing like this on the East Coast. These are highly antiviral. They've inhibited, all kinds of viruses like Ebola viruses, HIV. These are nuts. This is smallpox right here that you're looking at. Smallpox, a very virulent virus, and so they are inhibiting viruses. And why would a mushroom do that, right? Why would it need to manufacture something that inhibits smallpox? So when you look at evolutionary, fungi and animals diverged, and so a lot of the compounds are very similar. Like fungal and animal cells are very similar. So fungi are protecting themselves, but they're capable of manufacturing something against smallpox for humans and animals. That's crazy. Lentinus strigosus. This is a cool one. Well, it's been renamed, or it was renamed. I think it's Neolentinus strigosus, but it was named Lentinus panis, or I don't know if I can say this. You might want to edit this out, Scott. But it's hairy, right? It's a little hairy, and the species name was Panis. So this one was called hairy Panis. And if you look up old field guides, you'll see the hairy Panis, Panus. And so they changed the name to Neolentinus strigosus. This one is parasiticidal. Parasiticidal, which is really important. All right. A lot of us are carrying parasites that we don't know about. And I travel a lot. I mean, I've been to Haiti, I've been to Dominican Republic, I've been to Jamaica, I go to Costa Rica like all the time. And you never know when you're picking up the eggs of a parasite, like in your food, or if a bug bites you, you might get a parasite, like a trypanosome, malaria. In this case, this fungus is active against Chagas disease, not chaga the mushroom. So if you're taking notes, look up Chagas disease. It is a parasite that a love bug lands on your face and then bites, injects, and scratches in a parasite. and then all of a sudden you have neurological damage. A couple days later, it's terrible. It's spreading up through Central America, Mexico, and now they're detecting cases in Texas. So they're predicting that this Chagas disease is on the move. It's only a matter of time before it comes, here, in fact. So parasiticidal, this one grows everywhere. It grows in the full sun. It's easy to identify. It's this pink little fuzzy relative of the shiitake, and that's pretty cool.
Hey, Trad,
Yeah.
we are looking at past 8 o'clock, or just past 8 o'clock. So just want
Yeah,
to
I
be
saw that. I just tapped my phone, so I was going to ask you.
cool. Yeah, I'm down to keep going, but I want to give everybody else time if they need to get off to ask some questions too. So do we want to have an interjection for questions, or how much time would you need to finish if you wanted to?
Let me finish with psilocybin, the psilocybin group, and then I'll be done. How about that?
Perfect.
Yeah, I know nobody's going to leave. So one of the other things I do is with the Blue Portal, my other company, and I only do that like 4 times a year. It's a big deal, but it takes a lot of work and psychic energy. This is a what you would call a magic mushroom. So I would consider this a brain tonic. So I do consider this medicinal. And these fungi are, whoa, sorry. I want to see if anybody was on mushrooms. So they contain active compounds that are chemically similar to neurotransmitters that are in your brain. And so what these compounds do is they basically dock and they interact with your neurological system, and they turn off what's called a default mode network, which means it's like your firewall. There's your conscience and your subconscious, and it's like a iceberg, and it's what your operating system, and what is going on in the background is beneath that. And so these have been used for thousands of years, and a lot of different mushrooms contain psilocybin. This is Gymnopolis velatipes or spectabilis, and I've consumed or I've participated in psilocybin consumption since I was probably 18 or 19, and very slowly, like a lot, but then slowly like weaned off because you hit that point where you're very well calibrated. And this is like a shortcut to meditation. This is where your ego is basically dissolved, and you get in there and you're able to access information that your mind and your body has protected you from for a long time. So a lot of trauma and things like that. So I'm very happy and proud to be working with that and clients, and and it's just one of those kind of like life game changers. It's not for everyone. I'm screening clients today. I work with a pharmacologist, and I'm looking at medications and certain things, but it's not anything to be taken lightly. So I have a lot of respect for mushrooms. This group. They've balanced my life. They've changed my life, and I'm very, very honored to be, still connected with them for the rest of my life. So I'll stop there because I can go for hours.
All right, man, Trad, that is amazing. Yeah, and we really need to get you back for some more events, and I'd love to really get some of your things, some of your classes on the trade school.
Yeah,
Man.
and for anybody who's never seen Fantastic Fungi, look that movie up. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix anymore, from what I heard last a week or two ago, but I think you can rent it online, but fantastic fungi. I'm right near the end of the movie, but that'll give you an overview of just all the cool things that mushrooms are being used for. And I had slides here about antibiotics and all the antibiotic discoveries and all this cool stuff that I'm working on, and it's just nuts, guys. It's wild.
Mm. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions, comments,
Do we have any answers?
answers? Anybody want to book a trip to Blue Portal? I want to go. I want to go to Costa Rica and watch the howler monkeys.
Oh yeah, I mean it's amazing, and I mean we used to do it in Jamaica, and I mean I would still go back, but our spot in Costa Rica, right about property. I mean, there's howler monkeys, and what's really funny is like people would be like tripping, coming out of their ceremony, and they're outside, and the howler monkeys would just be like, woo, 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 like that, and they're like, oh my god, and I'm like, do you know what they're saying? And Scott knows me, I can't help but I'm not messing with the participants. I'm just kind of getting them to do some dialogue. And I said, "What are they saying? Like, what do you hear? Like, do you understand what they're saying?" There? And they're like, "I don't know." And I'm like, they're your cheerleaders. Like that's what's good. They're cheering you like, "Go, go, go, go." And I said, maybe they're asking you to evolve
Oh yeah.
because they're more higher evolved than we are. I think that we've devolved in a way. I mean, we're really a smart species, but we've been very unintelligent about what we've done to the planet, and the monkeys haven't done anything, and they're asking us to evolve.
Yeah.
and they're
That's
and they're like,
like
what?
like the book Ishmael. Anybody ever read that?
Uh-uh.
I read the first
Ishmael,
page the other day.
did you? Yeah, it's a great book. There's like a gorilla that's telepathically communicating with the human, and basically, he's teaching the human all this wisdom. And at the end of it, that's essentially, I won't spoil it, but that's kind of the gist of the book. Quit messing up.
Speaking of books, that's my book. So if you want, check it out.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me talk. I mean, I hope everybody learned some stuff, and
Thank you, Trad, for coming on
there's
and taking the
so much
time.
more. There's so much more. We could do a part two. I just looked at my slides. I think I was like half. Like it was a lot. It was my Telluride talk, so it was a lot of slides. So
Awesome.
yeah, man.
Yeah, well, there's so much to learn from you. Just about everything that I know about mushrooms, I've learned from you. And I took your certification course and learned how to identify most things. And then you ripped my badge off when I falsely identified oyster mushroom one time. I thought it was I know
Yeah.
I looked at I looked at it was the jack-o'-lantern, and I was like, is that an oyster? And you just came up and ripped my badge off in that moment. But I still have shiitake logs here. We've been fruiting. Oh, I wanted to ask you. You were talking about inoculating logs. There's a certain time frame, right? That you want to. I'm sorry. There's a if the tree falls and it already has mushrooms growing on it, you don't want to really bother with that, right?
Yeah, no. So it's already infected. So no dead trees, no infected wood. If you see something growing on it, and if you cut a tree and you see like marbled, tissue, don't even use it. If you are cutting trees intentionally for cultivation, you want healthy, fresh trees. And I don't like cutting oaks, by the way. I like cutting like sweet gum and stuff like that. It's more short lived, more will come back. they're fast growing. So I like cutting stuff like that. But shiitakes will grow on sweet gum. Oysters will. And then it's like the time of year. There's more sugar in the wood when the leaves fall. So if you're intentionally cut like in November, December, after the leaf drop. When the leaves start to change, you start to see the leaf change is like phosphorus in the leaves. It's like phosphate. It's like, there's no sugars. They're all went into the wood. So
Okay.
So cut the trees from November to February, March, before you start to see the sap move, and that log will be more, there's more sugar in that log. But if you want, I mean, if you have trees that you have to cut, like we do all the time for clients, it's like cut them down and make a mushroom garden, period. Like there's no reason that you should have that wood hauled off. Wood chips stay on site. You can do Kingster Ferry on the wood chips. So try to keep as much carbon on the site for soil creation and food production, right? That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And if you all need help with that stuff, let us know. We do general contracting in the area, in the upstate of South Carolina, that is. So, all right. Any other questions before we close this thing out? Oh, Andrew has his hand up.
Yes. Hey, I just wanted to ask about because I'm always recommending people to take mushrooms, and typically with older folks, the first question I always get is like, well, I'll have to talk to my doctor first because I'm taking such and such, and then they'll look stuff up. Well, psilocybin, you can't take that with SSRIs, so I tell people that, but oftentimes people are either on like blood thinners or all sorts of different ones, and they'll see that lion's mane is also a blood thinner, or maybe the wood ear is a blood thinner. So I usually say I don't think it'll make your blood so thin that you'll bleed out, but I think it's because it's natural, right? So I was just wondering like what your general advice was on that, and then I think Paige has a specific prescription that she wants to ask about.
Okay. Well, let me first question is like, yeah, I mean, psilocybin is a different animal. That one would be, from my experience, we look at, anxiety medication. Prozac is it's something that has to be tapered down. SSRIs have to be tapered down. So if you're interested in doing that kind of experience, and I don't advise that you would do a therapeutic dose like on your own. I wouldn't do it anymore. I did it when I was young, but if you're looking for therapy, you really need to do it with a therapist. And if you're on medication, you really have to be aware of how that can interact with that, because it may just cancel out the effect of the psilocybin, right? There's also, I had a client today who sent me like a list of 100 different supplements that she takes. And then, I looked at that, omega-3s, fine, like going on through them. But then the pharmacist was like, oh, well, there may be a concern with something for digestive enzymes because, and I knew that, like some enzymes will counteract the effects of the ceremony, right? So yeah, it's really good to have a pharmacist available who knows to look at all that stuff, because I don't. Yeah, and as far as the lion's mane and wood ears and things like that for blood thinners, sure, it's like there's always caution, and eat those mushrooms a little at a time to see what their effect is, right?
Right.
All right. So what's the
Thank
next
you.
question?
So I got my mom this tincture because she's been worried about her her brain health. Basically, she feels like her memory's been getting worse and things like that. And so I got her this Cognoshroom tincture with lion's mane, cordyceps, mesema, and poria in it. And she's already, I didn't tell her before getting it for her, I just got it for her, and she's been very hesitant so far to take it, just because she's also more traditional, like you were saying, about your mom earlier. So I'm trying to help her by introducing her to this alternative thing that could help her with that without having to take, more medicine. But she's been kind of asking all these different types of questions, and now she's worried about, I was texting her during this, actually asking if she's taken it yet, and she said no. And so she's worried now that it's going to counteract one of her medicines. It's an anxiety medicine called bupropion, I think. I don't know if you can answer about a specific medication, but do you know of any instance where these mushrooms have interfered with any anxiety medicine specifically?
Is it Wellbutrin?
It's spelled Bupropion.
Okay. No, I mean, lion's mane and cordyceps they're different mechanisms, so they should not interact with those whatsoever. So there's no risk.
Perfect.
It is a Wellbutrin.
Oh yes, it is a Wellbutrin. Andrew just looked it up.
Yeah, I figured. So I mean, that's what's good about working with a pharmacist for 2 years. I've learned like so much about the drugs on the market and the different names. But yeah, you totally fine, 100%. No interactions with that.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll let her know that. Hopefully I won't have any more questions coming from that.
No, and I'm available if anybody wants to ask questions. My email is cottertrad@gmail.com. Right there. You see my name, Trad Cotter. It's cottertrad@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. All right. Well,
somebody just sent me pictures right now, like a text. I don't even know who it is. Like somebody sent me pictures. Like, can I eat those? Let me find out who
That
this is.
That was me.
Was
That's
you?
Virginia. Yeah. No, I was asking
Virginia?
about I was asking about parboiling. Honeys.
Those are honey mushrooms.
No, I know those are honeys, but should I start parboiling those before I saute them? Because I've previously just been sauteing them.
Well, there's some pretty nasty wormy ones in the middle. I see them. So just eat the caps of those. Clip the caps off of the good ones.
Okay.
The stems are really like fibrous and everything. So,
Yeah, they've been turning black when I cook them, which is kind of gross.
Yeah, it's gross. It's a nice cluster. Good for you.
We just did the same thing. We had them in bone broth for probably 36 hours, and they were, I was scared of them, to be honest, so we really we really procrastinated eating them, but they were delicious.
Yeah, and honey mushrooms have some very interesting compounds. Let me make one more recommendation. I know we're way over. Everybody should buy and have a copy of The Fungal Pharmacy. Yes, he's a good friend of mine, but that is a encyclopedia of knowledge. And you can just flip, Virginia, you can flip to Armillaria. It's alphabetical order. And you can go through all of the medical trials and all the different things, the lab trials. And you can find out what it's, why it's medically important. And then they will show dosage. Like you have to really work for it. And I'm writing a new book which kind of distills it and makes it easier. But his book has like the milligrams per kilogram body weight of how much you should take for a certain condition, which is awesome.
I have that book and I'm really bad at using it because I just eat as much as I can, harvest mostly. So thank you for the recommendation.
All right. Yeah, better safe than dead. Everybody just contact me if you need help. Thanks, Patty.
Yeah, thank you, Trad. There are old mycologists and there are bold mycologists, but there are There aren't very many old, bold mycologists, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm only 38. I'm a bold mycologist. I fully acknowledge that.
All right. Well, y'all, thank you so much for coming. I want to remind everybody that this Saturday is our first Saturday workshop. Tree Scout members are invited. We're also inviting students for stewardship to this event, and back to Eden small group from Alive Wesleyan. So we're going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're going to do a little scripture, prayer, and conversation with the small group, or anyone who wants to join with that, you're welcome to. And then we're going to harvest some pears, harvest some more muscadines. Jay did an excellent job harvesting. And then harvest some basil. And our goal is to, depending on how many people we have, make some pear preserves, some muscadine jam or jelly, and some pesto. And then we'll have it's a bring your own lunch and a potluck dinner. So
Hey,
10
Scotty,
o'clock a.m.
what are you
Bring
doing with
your
the
own lunch.
pesto? What are you doing with the pesto? Are you doing like ice cube trays or?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's the best. All right, just a second.
Cool. I have some jars. I will have to go get some ingredients, but part of the perk of being a Treehouse Trade School member is to be able to come to these workshops monthly. And I also, we're going to be doing some discounts on some of the other workshops. The only workshop we have scheduled is the New Year's resolution manifestation, second annual event. That'll be in January. So we're going to get some other workshops on the calendar as well. But just want to thank you all for contributing to make this possible. And maybe we'll see you on Saturday. Everybody give Brad a big thank you and a couple of snaps or hearts or something.
Thank you so much, everybody. So,
Thank you, brother.
yeah, man. Have a good weekend, guys.
All right. Y'all too. Peace out, Tree Scouts.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Chad.
Good
Peace
man.
out.
Anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love y'all.